Assalamu alaikum. I got a video for you today, but before we get into it, I want to show you a few gifts that I received from a neighbor of mine. Now this is through the years. I think one comes from 2018 and when I first became a Muslim, and the other one was last year. And they're both something that he picked up for me in Egypt. He was thinking about me as he was over there. And the first one is this Quranic verse. It's very beautiful. I don't know if you can see it, how well you can see it, but it's a velour box that it comes in. Very, very beautiful. I always look at it in remembrance of him bringing it to me. Now the second thing is something that he brought me this last year. This is can you see that? This is all glass. Now you hang this up in your car where your mirror is, sort of like the Catholics hang a rosary. And he picks these up on his journeys back home to Egypt. Wonderful gifts. Okay, I promised my viewers this video because it's kind of like a conclusion of some other one I did on spreading your faith. Before we get into it, I want to relate a story to you. Today, it's cloudy in Florida and it's cold. I mean, it's pretty cold. It's for 40 degrees, around the low 40s in Florida. That's very, very cold. Okay, so I heard a little faint rap on my door earlier, and I answered the door, and there stood probably she was either from 10 to 13-year-old girl and her mom, and probably her sister, a little older sister. Now, what they were doing, they all had long dresses on. They reminded me that they were independent or fundamentalist Baptists is what they were, I would imagine. But she was giving me a tract and asking me if I knew if I was going to heaven or not. And I thought that was interesting because that's along the subject that I'm doing today. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how skilled you are. She was handing me that tract, and her hand was shaking like that, And she was nervous. I mean, here's this big old guy who looked like Saddam Hussein or somebody, was answering the door. And she wanted to know if I went to church somewhere, and I told her I go to a masjid. I'm Muslim. I don't think she knew exactly what that was, but I think the mom knew because I could see the countenance of her face change a little bit. But anyway, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how young you are. It doesn't matter about your abilities. Everyone has a certain ability to present what you believe to somebody else. It's communication, okay? That's what the main thing is, communication. And the better you can communicate, the better and more success you'll have. That's obvious, okay? Now, your sheikhs, and I mean not your sheikhs, but your imams and your scholars and those higher ups have a good opportunity to do these things because they have the ability, a better ability than what the average person does. The average person might be shy, okay? And there's no magic bullet for this. I can't go down a list and I can't say you got to do this, 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 and this, and you'll get this result, because you know what? Everyone is individual. And when somebody that you want to present your faith to, you have to know a little something about them. You know what I'm saying? So there's no magic bullet, but there are some guidelines that I'll give you. And this little girl, she she was really trying hard to get that tract in my hand. You know, it had a big Bible on the front of it. It was probably about a 6 by 8 tract. It was a pretty huge tract, and she wanted me to take that tract, and I kept handing it back to her, and she kept handing it to me again. She wasn't about to give up. You know, it made me smile because I think back at the days when I was doing something similar. But anyway, I want to give you some guidelines. These aren't really hard rules that you got to follow because, like I said, it all depends on your communication skills. Can you talk to somebody? Can you walk up and talk to a stranger and have a conversation? That's an ability that would come in real handy. Are you scared to talk? And I think one of the first things that you really got to get down pat is, do you know your faith enough to share it? Because that would be a big stumbling block if you didn't know what you were talking about. Because in 2 minutes and a couple of questions somebody will ask you, if you don't know your faith, you're sunk, right? I mean, they just lose interest in. I mean, if they can't get their questions answered, they lose interest, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you these guidelines. And like I said, there's no rules. These are not rules. These are some simple common sense things. So number one, get a knowledge of your faith. You should be doing that anyway. But get a good knowledge of what you believe, because to present it, you have to know. Okay, so just like I did with the girl at the door, I didn't say, hey, I'm Muslim and I'm not believing in the Bible and I'm not believing in Jesus and Jesus was just a I didn't give her a long list of things. I just told her, I'm just not interested, and she got the message and finally kept the track and walked away. But the idea of it is I let her talk. So you talk less and you listen more. That's one of the guidelines, okay? When you meet somebody, you talk less and you listen more. And don't jump in where you don't need to, because all you're going to do is stir the pot, right? All right, you stay on target. Just like this little girl, she was on target, man. She kept trying to put that track in my hand, and I would hand it back to her, and she would hand it to me again. She'd say a few things, and she'd ask a question, and she'd hand me the track back again, and then I would hand it back to her, and we were passing that thing back and forth until she finally gave up, and I told her I'm not interested. So stay on target. Don't get off the trail, you know what I'm saying? Don't get carried away into some crazy conversation about something that's entirely useless. And if it's something you can use to present your faith, if that's the way you want to do it, and that's the way you're used to doing it, I mean, by all means. But if it's something that's going to carry you off into the woods somewhere and get lost, I mean, don't go down that path. Because all you're doing then is wasting time. You're wasting your time, you're wasting the person's time, and you're getting nowhere. So stay on target. That's the second one. The third one is, once you get to know this person, and you probably want to know what they believe, ask them that question, because that's why I went through all these videos on different faith denominations and things, so that you would know the person a little better that you're talking to. So what you want to do is you don't want to downplay their faith. I mean, that's something that you don't want to do. Kind of don't say anything and just get away from a question, Don't make up things and fire them at them like little rockets, because that's going to get you nowhere if you offend these people right off from the start. You're not going to go nowhere, okay? So don't downplay their faith. Treat each one as an individual and as important, okay? When they're talking, don't cut into what they're saying. Let them finish what they're saying, because what they're saying they think is important. So the minute you cut in and try to, I object, this is what I believe, this is what Muslims believe, forget it. Listen to what they're saying. because they feel that what they're saying is important. Now, even though you know it's not important, you know it's not important to you, it's really important to them. So don't cut in, don't cut them off. Let them talk. Let them finish their sentences. Okay? That's just respect, you know what I'm saying? You get them mad at you, and like I said, and you got a world of trouble then. Okay, present your message. Don't get off onto something else. I mean, present your message. Stick to your message. And don't compromise your message. Okay? You don't want to soften your message just to please somebody. You know, you think that it might please them. No, stick to the message of Islam. Don't compromise. Do not compromise your message, okay? Stay on target with your message. And that's just some good advice, you know what I'm saying? Get your teaching straight. I mean, get what you're going to present ahead of time. Get it straight. I suggest that you take a notebook and you sit down and you watch some of these videos where guys at Speaker's Corner or somewhere are giving dawah. There's a sheikh out there, I forget his name, but he gives dawah all the time. And write down some of the questions that people are asking him and study up on it. Be prepared. Be prepared for some hard questions. Now, and don't be afraid if you can't answer that question to say, look, I'm really not sure about that, but I know somebody I can call, or I'll get back to you if you're going to come back again next week, or even if you come back later today. I'll try to find out what what your question is, and I'll get back with you onto it. So, you know, stay on target, stay consistent, present your message, and then understand that you're in a Western culture. Understand where you're at, okay? Now, that means a lot. I mean, if you're there with just remember, if you're in South Alabama, it's not like being in Florida. People in South Alabama, generally, they've been in South Alabama most of their life, a few generations. Very few people from up east migrate to Alabama, I noticed. Most people come out of New Jersey and New York and they come down to Florida, okay? So there's a different group of people in Florida than there is in Alabama. Now in Alabama, they're used to coon hunting and catfish lines and raccoons and, all this stuff here, Louisiana's gator hunts, So, I mean, recognize where you're at and the kind of people that you're talking to. Bill L. Phillips really stressed that one time in one of his messages, that you got to have the appropriate message for what's appropriate to the people. All right? I think sometimes, and just my opinion, there's no hard fast rule either way, but I've seen people come and speak at the masjid, and they'll go on and on for 10 or 15 minutes in Arabic. All right, like everyone there speaks Arabic. And you know what? In the masjid that I go to, maybe one or two people speak Arabic. That's it. So, hey, you did a good job speaking in Arabic, but it just fell on deaf ears. I mean, people were nodding off and losing interest because, it's just not who you ought to be speaking Arabic to that long anyway. Now, I can understand a prayer or a surah, but to just go on and in Arabic, that just got this guy nowhere. I mean, everybody at the end, people were looking at one another and shaking their shoulders like that. What's he saying, because nobody there. Like I said, you might have two people, a few Egyptian fellas that spoke Arabic, and maybe a couple others, but that was it. So, I mean, he was speaking to 3 people out of the whole masjid. So be on target with who you're trying to reach. Okay, be appropriate. Appropriate dialogue. Okay. If you got something in common with people, I mean, that's good. If you think that you can make a connection and you got something in common, I mean, use that if you can to your advantage. They're like people, people like to get together and talk about things they like, right? Okay, so use these things to your advantage. Use whatever you can to your advantage. Okay, but don't get off target. I mean, stick to Islam. That's what you're there for. I mean, that's what you're trying to do, okay? Now, we have the last session. It was some time back. I guess some of my viewers had contacted an imam who was actually a friend of mine, who was actually one of my teachers. And when I put out the information that we're going to need some things for setting up at the flea market, well, the imam called me and said, "Hey, Steve, brother, I know you want to set up at the flea market, and we're willing to buy whatever you need." So all that's taken care of. That Alhamdulillah. I mean, we're funded with that for whatever we need, the rent, the things that the tracks, some of the other things, maybe some camera gear. They're going to take care of it all for me. So, Alhamdulillah. I mean, Allahu Akbar. He is gracious and kind. And the brothers have all got together. And I really do appreciate that. Now, we have two approaches that we may use at this flea market. Number one is, I don't see a lot of people setting up there to pass out religious information, okay? Tracts of any kind. I don't see Jehovah's Witness there. I don't see Baptists there, First Baptists. I don't see anybody there. So there's a way to get around that. And what I can do is I can lay my tracts and material on a table. And I can also fill a table with some yard sale items. Now, there's two reasons for that. Number one is the yard sale items will get them over to my table. So they'll start looking. I'm not breaking any rules because that is, I'm not out there with the loudspeaker, and I'm trying to proselyte people to Islam, So they come to my table, they look at the things I got for sale, and I got a plenty of it in here because I'm minimizing my things because I'm up in age, number one. And if something happens to me, somebody's going to have to deal with a whole lot of stuff, and I don't want that to happen. So we're just going to get rid of most of it, and I'm going to keep just the things that are meaningful to me and minimize everything in the house, okay? So these things are going to be out there for sale, but as they walk up, this is going to be my catch. As they walk up, they're going to see also all these things about Islam. And while they're looking, I'm going to say, "Hey, would you like to have one of these tracts? This is the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Maybe you should know something about him. There's a lot of Muslims in this country." So this is what we're going to do. And we're going to have this on film so you can watch, and we'll see what happens. Now, I may get thrown out. I mean, because that's kind of a backdoor way of doing things. I don't think it's dishonest, but it's if they don't ask me, I'm not going to tell them what I'm doing, okay? Now, if they want to come and confront me and say, "Hey, you can't do that," well, then we're going to have to find somewhere else, all right? But this is the way we're going to plan to go about this, because, like I said, there's two benefits to that. It's going to get people to the table, and the second benefit is we can give, some tracts and material, and they can ask some questions and things like that, so we can take it from there, and maybe possibly make some friends and maybe some new converts to the faith. Okay, so everyone make dawah, prayer for me, pray for me. God is faithful. Allah is there, and He's present. And whoever accepts, it's because he was there guiding. It's not because I'm there. I'm really nothing. So, and I realize that. And I think the older you get, I think the more you realize that. When you're young, you got kind of a lot of zeal, and you're trying to do a lot, and you think you're doing it all. But when you get old, you realize that, oh, hey, it's not me. It's not me that's doing this. I want to tell you something now. This is off the track. This is at the end of the video, and I'm done with the video for all purposes. But I want to relate a story to you. The other day, I was going out of my apartment, and I went down the road, and there's a light at the corner, and it's a really congested corner. It's I think there's 4 lanes there. There's a turn lane and 3 other lanes. And the light is red, and I'm stopped there at this light, and I'm right up in the front. I'm ready to go. I'm stopped at this light, and the light goes to a green light with an arrow, a green arrow, all right? Means you can go, all right? You can make your turn. So I start pulling out, and I caught something at the corner of my eye, and I looked, and here comes a transit van. It's probably like a 350 or something. It's commercial, like maybe HVAC or maybe a rug cleaner or something like that. And he is running this light. He's absolutely running this light. Everyone else was stopped, and I got the arrow and I got the light, so I'm going. And this guy didn't stop. He did not stop. And I'm looking at him, and man, I can see the bugs on the front of this thing, and he's got his brakes locked up, and he's sliding, and he maybe slid for 150 feet. So I'm out there in the middle, and he would have slammed right, at that point. I kept on going, and when I noticed what was going on, I stomped it, and then I turned the wheel this way and went around that way to kind of so he would miss me. And I don't think that you could have slid a piece of paper in between his front bumper and my back into my car. No, I drive a BMW. It's got a lot of pickup. When you stomp it, I mean, you're flying. If anything has got any pickup, this thing has got pickup. You know what I'm saying? So it's no slow pokey car. And I did make it out of that. And I thought to myself, how quick, brothers and sisters, that your life can be taken like that. And that could have done it right there. This guy, if he wouldn't have seen what he was doing and slammed his brakes on, and I wouldn't have sped up, I mean, there could have been a real accident right there where he just slammed in the side of my door. That wouldn't have been a good thing. So, praise be to Allah. He protected me. I can guarantee you, because it was nothing I could have done. I mean, so whether angels picked the back end of that car up and slid it over away from this guy and stopped this guy before he hit me, I don't know what went on in the spiritual realm, okay? But I do know that I was spared from a tragic accident. So my message to you on the end of this is be real careful. You might be in the right, all right? But somebody else is not going to obey the law. And this guy was going to run that light, and I'm pulling out at the same time. So anyways, story's over. But anyway, everyone have a good week. I'm going to get a couple more videos out. I got some other ones I'm thinking about right now. And I hope everyone is in excellent health. I think we're seeing an end to this COVID stuff. They say there's a spike, but they say that this stuff, this last variant is going to die out, and it spreads really fast, so it's everywhere, and it's not as lethal. So this is what they're saying, but they change their mind on what they say from time to time, so I don't know. But anyway, just do what you've been doing. Stay safe. May Allah protect you and keep you, and may He bless you richly throughout your week. May your family be protected. And we'll get back with you again with the next video. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters.